Good evening, my name's Captain Ben Hurst. I'm the County Shooting Officer for Derbyshire ACF, and what I'm going to be running through today is the elevation graphs lesson. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to plot the fall of shot accurately on the scorecard, log all sight adjustments made into the scorecard, accurately plot the elevation graphs, and be able to centralize your group using the graph. Okay then, what is an elevation graph? The elevation graph is attached to your scorecard and it plots your true elevation. Why do we need an elevation graph? As the graph does show the true elevation, this enables you to see the mean of your group, which can help you move the group to the center of the target. Sometimes, as you're making adjustments throughout the shoot, the plot on the main card itself does not give a true reflection of your group, and by making the adjustment based on that alone can sometimes cause you to chase bad shots, and by using the graph it will give a much more accurate recollection to make a much better informed decision. Starting off by looking at the scorecard then, there's a number of elements that you can complete before you get on the firing point, and the more you can complete the better prepared you will be. Looking around the card then, the elements that you can complete first, if you look down at the bottom right information chart, first of all have a look at the rifle that you're using, the foresight element that's relevant to that shoot at that distance, have a look at the weather, the date in which it's shot, which will help you when you're creating a logbook, the time of the shoot, the ammunition you're using. This one here just dictates that it's Radway Green 2006. If you're wanting to really go into detail, which is probably a better thing to do, even log the batch number that you're using for that shoot. What the target is that you're shooting on. I've put target C based on a typical Imperial meeting, so when you get to your butt that you're going to be shooting at, you can identify the actual target number based on the scramble board. The range that you're shooting at, so for this one I've used butt 15 as the example, and the competition that you're going to be shooting. In this case we've used the example from the Inter-Service Cadet Rifle meeting, the last shoot of the day, which is the Watts Bowl. Not completely accurate because that's normally shot at 600, and this is a 300 meter 300 yard example. What size aperture you have on the rear sight, and the light that you're exposed to. So we've got a bright sunny day, for example. If it's a little bit cloudy, you can relate to that in those information charts there. As I know my own rifle and I know my starting elevation, I would log that in the elevation chart for shot A as well. And again, because I know my elevation, I can pre-fill out the starting point for the graph. If you're unsure if it's your first shoot with that rifle, I'd recommend that you do not complete the elevation chart until you've fired at least your first sighter, and then depending on if you've got to make a major adjustment at that stage, you can log it accordingly from there. Any questions? Okay, moving on to the first of the scorebook exercises. What you need to do is make sure that you have got a blank 300-yard scorecard with you. If you've not got this, if you want to pause the presentation now, go and find what you need and then come back ready to go. Okay, hopefully we've all now got the equipment that we need to run through this exercise. As you can see, moving on from the scorecard before, we're now on the firing point. We've got all the pre-filled out information required. We've set up our position and we're ready to take our first shot. We've had a look at the wind. The wind's not doing anything, so make the necessary adjustment on the sights and take the shot. It's at this point that you log what your wind is on. It's good practice to log the settings on the scorecard after you've took the shot for wind, because in challenging conditions where the wind is changing regularly, between the shots you may have to adjust the sights 2 or 3 times before you're happy and content to take the shot. So best practice is just to keep a mental image of what your sights are set to, take the shot, then log it on the scorebook. This reduces any risk of having to rub out or any mess, which can be confusing when you're needing to rely on that information to make informed decisions down the line. Once you've logged the wind, decide whether it was a good shot or not. In this case it was. And the best way to log your calls, if it's a good shot, put a central dot in the middle of the call box. I used to use a tick, but someone quite rightly pointed out to me that can sometimes be mistaken for a call low left. So best practice is a dot in the center. And then the target comes back up. In this case we've got a 4 at 2 o'clock. So you need to make sure you plot that as accurately as you can. Don't try and cheat yourself by putting it close to the bull as it is, because all that will do is lead to conflicting information when you do need to centralize the group. As you know, the starting elevation was at 10, and for shot A it's fell 3/4 of a minute high of the waterline. So what you're plotting on the graph is what your elevation should have been on for that shot to be bang on the waterline, which in this case 3/4 high would mean the elevation should have been at 9 1/4, and that's what you plot on that plot card. Then finally you log the score. This is the least important part of the scorebook information. As long as the plot is accurately logged according to the shot number, the score can be calculated at the end of the shoot. And we're ready to take our next shot. Again, while the target's down, any sight adjustments on the windage are logged at this point. For this one we didn't make any adjustments, so we simply log the call, which was another good shot. Target comes up and lovely slightly high V-ball. So again, the first thing that you plot is the V, the fall of shot, again as accurately as possible. In this case it's half a minute high, so if you're half a minute high of 10, then that's 9 1/2. That's what you plot on the scorecard. And then again, finally, log the score. Now, as this was a V-ball on the second sighter, and this is a competition, you want to convert that. Remember the rules of converting. You can either convert just the second or both. You cannot convert just the first, as it needs to be consecutive shots to count. To convert, if you are in a competition, you need to make it clear to the register keeper that you want to convert, and then on your scorecard you simply put a diagonal line through the sighter and carry that value into the first account. And you're ready to fire the next shot. But before we do that, we've realized that the last 2 shots have fell slightly high, so we've moved down half a minute to 9 1/2. And then we take the shot. So I've made a slight adjustment now on the windage. For this one I've moved 1/4 of a minute left. So the best and neatest way to log quarter minute adjustments is if you put a 0 between the left and the right, and then a 1 for a quarter, a 2 for a half, and a 3 for 3/4. And then when we go on to full numbers, obviously that's a large number in either the left or the right box, depending on which way you adjust your sights. It was another good shot, and it's come up as a ball at about 4 o'clock. So the next thing you do is plot that. And we was on 9.5 minutes elevation for that shot, and the shot has fell slightly low. So for this one, what we need to do is, in an ideal world, that would have probably been 10 and a little bit, and that's what you're plotting on the scorecard. Okay, as you can see, that is ever so slightly inaccurate plotting on my part. And then finally log the value of the score. Fire your next shot. In this case, we've gone a full minute over to the left, but they pulled the shot. Okay, they've called it right, so you just put an arrow pointing right in the call box. And in this case, it's paid off. It's come up as a ball slightly right-handed. A V ball slightly right-handed. So you plot the shot. And looking at this, for the elevation was on 9.5, pretty much on the water line. So that's where you plot it. As it was a bad shot, circle it. Not just the plot, but also the graph. This helps you if you are in a tricky situation and you're needing to centralize the group. You'll be able to discount it if you feel it's not relevant. And then finally, log the V-ball in the the score box. You fire your next shot. It was another good one. And it's come up at about 10 o'clock in the 4. So again, plot the fall of shot. And looking at the elevation, we were still on 9.5. We were slightly above, probably at 3/4 high in the 4. So for this one, that should have been at 8 3/4. And then we log that on the elevation graph. And finally log that 4. So if you look at the graph now we've got a bit of information. We've got 5 shots on there. So have a think and have a look at what you think the mean elevation should be. Looking at the average between those shots, I would say that we're probably running between 9.25 and 9.5, including the bad shot. Okay, so at that point, do we make an adjustment? I've gone down 1/4 just to centralise the group. And take the next shot. And we've pulled that one, it's gone high left. So you log that in the call box. And it did go high left, it's in the magpie. Okay, so the next thing you need to do is log the fall of shot, as accurately plotted as possible, and obviously because it was a bad shot, first of all log the elevation graph. So in this case it was at 9.25. For this one, 9, 8.5, probably 7.5 would have been what the elevation should have been on, and that is what is plotted on the graph. You then circle the plot and the plot on the elevation graph to indicate that that was a bad shot, to discount it out the group for the sake of centralizing the mean, and then log the score value and fire your next shot. In this case, we've gone back to 0 wind. And this one was a good shot. And it's come up this time as a 4 at about 4 o'clock. So first of all, again, plot the fall of shot. Plot the graph. So in this case, it was 3/4 of a minute low. You're at 9 1/4, so it should have been at 10, and that's where it is plotted on the graph. Finally, log the score value. Take the next shot. It's another good shot. And it's a nice V-ball. Okay, so again, you plot that first. Look at the elevation that we was on the rifle, which in this case was 9 1/4. It's probably 1/4 of a minute low, so it should have been on 9 1/2. Plot that and log the score value. And you're ready to take the next shot. Okay, slight elevation adjustment. So we've just gone up 1/4 of a minute just to try and help if we have another shot like 6 to sneak it back. Called it good. And elevation's lovely, but in this case it's just gone out to the right. So again, plot that fall of shot. We was at 9 1/2. Probably should have been between 9 1/2 and 9 1/4. So plot that. In this case, slightly below 9 1/2. Log the score value, and then you're ready for the next shot. Another good shot. Log it in the call box. Target comes up this time as a bull at 11 o'clock. So you plot that. Was on 9 1/2 elevation, 3/4 of a minute high, so that should have probably been 8 3/4. And you log the plot. Put the score value in and ready for the final shot. It was a good one. And this one didn't pay off. It's gone out at 4 o'clock in the 4. Plot the shot. In this case was at 9 1/2 with 3/4 of a minute low. So this should have probably been 10 1/4. Plot the final shot on the elevation and log the final score value. At this point, you could tot up the overall score. So in this case, we've dropped 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points. So out of 50, that's a 44 with 1, 2, 3 V-balls. So 44 with 3. And at this point, this is when you'd agree the score value with the register keeper. Are there any questions on the elements that we have just gone through with regards to plotting exercise? Okay, good. Okay, what we're going to look at now is trying to consolidate what we've just gone through with a bit of a practice at 500 yards. What you'll need for this one is another blank scorecard for 500. So if you've not got one, if you want to pause the presentation now, nip off and get what you need. And once you've come back, press play again and we'll make a start. Okay, moving on to the actual practice test now then, just to see how much of that information you managed to retain. You should all now have your 500-yard scorecard with you and any of the pre-filled out information as we talked about on the previous exercise. The starting elevation for this shoot is going to be 14. So if you log that now, and that's quite accurate to what the elevation needs to be, so you can now pre-populate the elevation values on the graph. So if you do that now, message 1 is about to be passed to the books. And hopefully we're all now ready to take our first shot. The target goes down. It was a good shot. I'm happy with that. And the wind went on 0. Okay, so if you plot that now, calculate the elevation, and take the next shot. It was another good shot. Okay, so if you plot that one, calculate your elevation and the score value. I wouldn't be converting those. Okay, I'm going to make an elevation change to 13.5. And take the next shot. It was another good shot. And we've gone on 1.5 left wind. And a nice V-ball. So if you plot that, and your elevation graph and the score value, and take the next shot. And it was another good shot. No changes to wind, and we're still in the ball. So do the work you need to do on the scorebook. And we'll take the next shot. It was another good shot. Okay, do what you need to do. And then take the next shot. Sorry, no. Another slight elevation change. We're going to go down to 13 minutes elevation. then take the shot. And we've got another good shot. And that was fired on one left. Okay, so do the plots that you need to do. And we'll take the next shot. And another good shot. Another nice V-ball. So do your butt work. And take the next shot. And another good shot. And another nice V-ball. And ready to take the next shot. And that was another good shot. And we're still in the ball. And another good shot. Okay, a little bit out that time. So plot all the scorebook work. And ready for the next shot. Oh, okay, so made another slight elevation change there, back up to 13.5. And another good shot. And the wind went on 0 that time. And we're back in the ball. Okay, pulled that one low this time. And it snuck out underneath. Quite a bit underneath actually. And that's it, all out. Okay, has anyone got any questions about the scorebook exercise we just went through? I'm hoping the pace was manageable. You can use this presentation again and again if you wish, and if you feel that it's going a little bit quick in the future, just pause it between shots to enable you to do the necessary book work, and then as you get more confident, hopefully you'll be able to do it without the pause. Hopefully, if all things went to plan, your scorebook plot should look something like that, finishing with a 47 with 3. So I'm going to leave that on there a second just for you to have a look and compare against yours. So looking at that graph, discounting the shot 10, what would we think would have been the mean elevation based on the graph that we should have kept the sight set to? I will probably say 13 to 13 and a quarter will probably be about right. Okay, so in this lesson, hopefully, you've been taught to plot the fall of shot accurately on the scorecard, log all the sight adjustments made onto the scorecard accurately plot your elevation graphs, and centralize your group by using the graph and using the middle, the mean of that information. And thank you for watching. Hopefully it's been of some use.